A Galaxy Next Door. A story overloading with heart and charm, while also deep diving into themes like family, community, relationships, and of course, love. In today's video, I'll be unpacking some of those themes and sharing my thoughts on how the anime adaptation stacks up against the manga. So let's take a trip through A Galaxy Next Door. A Galaxy Next Door follows Ichigo Kuga, a young manga artist who suddenly finds himself responsible for his two younger siblings, Machi and Fumio, after his father unexpectedly passes away. Oh, and he's also juggling the management of their apartment building. Ichiro is kind and hardworking, doing everything he can to create a good life for his family through his manga career. But surprise, surprise, he's often overworked. Now, this isn't in a toxic way. It doesn't seem like the author is really trying to say anything about the manga industry. It's more of a plot device. Anyway, because he's helped launch the career of his previous assistant, he doesn't have one right now and he's kind of in a crunch. Enter Shiori Goshiki, a beautiful and inexperienced assistant recommended by Ichiro's editor, who also happens to be his best friend's husband. She shows up just in time to help Ichiro finish his latest chapter before the deadline. Although Shiori has only been drawing manga for a year, she's insanely talented and quickly proves to be the perfect partner for Ichiro in more ways than one. We call that a little bit of foreshadowing. Through a series of unfortunate, and to be quite frank, weird events, we find out Shiori is actually a princess of the Star People, inhabitants of a small island off the coast of mainland Japan. On that island, they share a bond thanks to what's most likely an alien parasite that struck Shiori's grandmother many years ago. And maybe parasite is not the right word for this, but I'm gonna use it in this particular review because it's like the best way I could think of to describe it, though I guess it might be more symbiotic than parasitic. Now, while the parasite isn't malicious, in fact, it granted Shiori's grandmother's wish for a peaceful island where the inhabitants can be happy and together, it does create a major issue for Shiori. Anyone who touches her stinger, which looks conspicuously like a tail above her booty, will be forced to not only marry her, but be bonded to her for life. And whenever her mood takes a dip, her partner is forced to experience retribution in the form of physical illness or worse. Now, this is supposed to be a rom-com, but the prospect of that makes me personally terrified. Ichiro accidentally touches the stinger, mistaking it for a pin lodged in Shiori's back, and oh boy does he pay for it. Through this bizarre accident, the two fall in love while also still searching for a way to break the forced bond. As they try to navigate this strange connection, they grow to love and appreciate one another as well as the people around them. Even when they eventually find a way to sever the forced connection, their bond remains strong, if not even stronger. It's a genuinely heartwarming story about love and family that's way more layered than it seems on the surface. So why don't we take some time to peel back some of those layers together? Though the pact between Shiori and Ichiro is the driving force in the early plot, it's primarily used as a hook for the story and a vehicle to help both characters grow individually while also bringing them together. Think of it as a springboard. It becomes less and less relevant until they finally remove it. Still, it's fleshed out through key scenes like when Ichiro first makes contact with the stinger. This encounter leads to a surreal moment where the two are seemingly transported to a spatial plane, which I personally interpreted it as an emotional connection, almost like a psychic link. Now, this happens a few times throughout the course of the story, usually as a relief for the retribution when the two of them touch. Now, the first significant instance of retribution occurs shortly after Ichiro is stung. In episode 2, Ichiro falls ill after Shiori leaves him to stay at a nearby bed and breakfast. We quickly learn that too much distance between the two causes Ichiro physical harm, resulting in a debilitating fever that only subsides when Shiori returns. This scene highlights the severity of the bond and how it impacts their relationship. Now, there are a lot of ways to view this retribution. I'm sure some of you would love to have that kind of power over your partner, but it's worth noting that this retribution is one-sided, affecting only one partner, in this case, the men in the relationship. Though I have no doubt that it would function about the same way in queer relationships as well. Now, the dangers of this one-sided pact is hinted at in the very first scene when we see Shiori's father in a fucking wheelchair. one that he's out of by the next time that we see him, but he still has some lingering and visible injuries. Though it's not implicitly said, it's clear he suffered from retribution, likely because Shiori decided to leave the island. Despite not being his decision, he's still forced to absorb all the physical manifestations of his wife's emotional pain. Now, though I wouldn't exactly call this abuse, at least in a direct sense, knowing that this can happen to your partner is inherently abusive. This dynamic underscores how easy it is for a person's emotional pain to become something physical for their partners, and it's honestly pretty dark for such a wholesome story. Now, mind you, this is a rom-com. It's a fucking rom-com. This pact, at least to me, is coded like it's a little bit of a commentary on the toxicity of control and how easy it is to exert that control without ever considering how it affects the ones you love. Unlike their predecessors, Shiori and Ichiro test the boundaries of their pact in healthy ways, ultimately seeking to free themselves from the forced control. They develop enough faith and love for each other to work through their emotions in healthier ways. Yes, this does indeed often play out ideally, but it doesn't undercut the story's themes. Once they find a way to break the pact, they demonstrate healthier ways to love through open and honest communication, even when it's very difficult. And I gotta say, that's probably one of the things that I appreciate the most about this series is how much emphasis they put on healthy communication. It feels like in the case not only for our main characters, but also some of the side characters around them, communicating their feelings is important, and finding ways to communicate those feelings to their partners in ways that they will receive them is equally as important. The themes of family and community are contrasted between Shiori's family on the island and Ichiro's siblings, friends, and tenants in his apartment complex. While Shiori seeks to distance herself from her parents' control and the influence she holds over the island's inhabitants, she also becomes a key figure in bringing Ichiro closer to those around him. This dynamic unfolds early in the story when Shiori moves into the building Ichiro manages. She insists on meeting and gifting the neighbors, something Ichiro is pretty passive about. Though he does offer some encouragement, Ichiro clearly keeps his distance from the tenants, probably because he's the landlord, and after all, I'm sure he doesn't want to cause any conflict of interest. This, in a lot of ways, mirrors how society often functions, with us creating layers between ourselves and those we work, study, and live around. A Galaxy Next Door, however, offers a different perspective. These are the spaces where we spend most of our lives, and the people we share them with can become an indirect family of sorts. People we can lean on and learn from through shared experiences. Though those people may move on to other stages in their lives, you're still bonded by those shared experiences and memories that come from them. After Shiori gifts the residents, with a little bit of help from the adorable Chibi-chan, the next day she finds thank you notes on the community whiteboard in the kitchen area. Now before this, the residents mostly kept to themselves, but thanks to this small gesture, they become more involved in the comings and goings around the building. Now this isn't the only thing that affects this, it's just kind of like the catalyst for it. It's a simple act that makes something Ichiro never thought was possible come true. A closer and more connected community. Now let's contrast this with the island where Shiori grew up. The happiness of the island's people is a symptom of the parasitic control granted to the Goshiki family by the star that fell on Shiori's grandmother many years before. It's a tightly controlled place, often off-putting to outsiders who don't share the same connection as the residents. It's almost cult-like. People don't leave the island and they really don't question their leader, Shiori's mother. From the flashbacks Shiori has with her grandmother and the way Shiori speaks about her, it's clear that her grandmother may have had some regrets about her relationship with the parasite and the wish she made. You see, Shiori's grandmother made this wish when she was only 6 years old, so there's no way that the simplistic and idealistic wishes of an actual child could ever account for the complexities of human existence. Happiness is an experience, not a permanent state of being. It's something we understand through positive, negative, and even neutral experiences. These experiences allow us to not only feel, but also understand happiness, joy, peace, and the connections that foster those emotions. From her grandmother's perspective, it was too far to reverse course, but letting Shiori leave the island to experience these things for herself was the only way to save the island from itself. It was actually her dying wish for Shiori's mother to let Shiori pursue her own version of happiness, free from the responsibility of that tainted community of the island. As Shiori herself begins to better understand the parasitic relationship she has with the island's people, it's only natural for her to question the nature of her relationships with its inhabitants. She experiences love and acceptance from her new community through genuine connections that aren't predicated on her lineage, but in spite of it. This reshapes her views on her relationships with the island, ultimately leading her to reject it and choose to never return. After his father's death, Ichiro is thrust into a fatherly role for his young siblings, committing himself to work hard for their sake. He is often overwhelmed but determined to carry the burden alone. Machi and Fumio, however, are smart and perceptive kids who pick up on Ichiro's struggles. They work hard to keep him from going off the deep end, offering support, encouragement, and most importantly, love. They're willing to make sacrifices for the sake of their family, even without Ichiro being fully aware of those sacrifices. Contrast that with Shiori's family, who, outside of her now deceased grandmother, shows little support for Shiori's dreams and goals. Her mother's love and desire to protect her are expressed through her tight grip on every aspect of Shiori's life. From the very first scene in the manga and the anime, it's clear that Shiori's mother is upset about Shiori leaving the island and her scope of influence. It's very easy to come to the conclusion that her mother doesn't want Shiori to get hurt or to suffer. To her, the greatest expression of love is through protection, though that protection is clearly suffocating Shiori to the point where she feels the need to escape. It's oppressive and painful, preventing Shiori from growing and developing as an individual with her own motivations and goals. Unlike Ichiro, who willingly accepts the burden placed on his shoulders and does have the support in his goals, even if he's hesitant to accept it, Shiori has it thrust upon her unwillingly. Even in the flashbacks throughout the story, she's kept separate from the other children and residents of the island, forced into the role of a princess, and never allowed to form real bonds with the people around her, including her family. Still, through her grandmother, Shiori is presented with an alternative view of love, family, and community. Her often alienating experiences with her mother and the island's community lead her to seek out the things her grandmother taught her on the mainland. Her idealistic perception of these things lead to many hijinks and a tongue-in-cheek exploration and celebration of classic shoujo tropes. She also, narratively, becomes the catalyst for bringing together her new family and community. But how about the most important theme? Love and relationships. Well, A Galaxy Next Door tackles this in a much more realistic way than you'd expect from a sci-fi slice-of-life rom-com. Sure, there are plenty of unrealistic anime logic moments. For example, what are the chances that a beautiful princess is going to show up at a regular guy's doorstep and be in love with him from jump? But A Galaxy Next Door uses this to deconstruct the genre and its tropes in both literal and subtle ways, making Ichiro a shoujo author while also using the same medium to influence Shiori's perspective on romance presents the narrative with great opportunities to celebrate and at the same time poke fun at the standard romance tropes. There are times when Shiori quite literally says, "This is straight out of a shoujo manga." The implementation of these tropes is where A Galaxy Next Door shines. Instead of leading exclusively to awkward situations, they allow Shiori and Ichiro to communicate their feelings in ways that feel, at least to me, pretty realistic. For starters, the typical will they won't they tension is pretty much eliminated early on. Their feelings are established and communicated pretty early on in the story. Instead of teasing out their confession, the story gives us a wide view of their growth as a couple. Each interaction is an opportunity for them to learn more about each other and to communicate their values, hopes, and fears. This in turn deepens their bonds with each other and with the people around them. Ultimately, it makes every milestone between our lovebirds feel earned. Even when they reach those awkward moments where they don't necessarily know how to address their feelings, they communicate that to one another. It's a love story that feels earned, and though it has its cheesy anime moments, the themes, conflicts, and resolutions still feel kinda realistic. Spoiler alert for the manga, because this does not happen in the anime, but I did genuinely feel a surge of emotions when Ichiro finally proposed to Shiori, and it was this beautiful moment that I felt was earned. And it didn't feel like finally, it really felt like, man, I'm so happy for them. So should you watch the anime? I can't really recommend it. In all honesty, I think it just really lacks the charm of the manga. Combine that with the fact that the manga itself is a tidy 6 volumes that you could breeze through over a weekend, and there's really no reason to watch this dull anime, and I say that respectively to the team that worked on it. Now, I'm not sure if it's budgetary restraints or what caused this to be as dull as it was, but the animation is not very good. I definitely think that things pick up a little bit during the last 3 episodes of the season. It just looks a lot better by the time we get there. So maybe they were kind of saving their budget for that, but still, it just is kind of, like I said, dull. Now, by no means is it boring, because I think unlike Kubo, it really nails the pacing. With that said, compared to the manga, it does strip out quite a bit of context and truncates a lot of things, which I don't necessarily mind, but I think the side characters are the ones that suffer the most from this, especially the tenants of Ichiro's building. There's some really interesting personalities that pop up, and they're not around very much during the first part of the story. I think they get a little bit more of a build in the second part of the story, but still, I would have liked to seen a little bit more of a setup towards these characters, because they have their own things that go on by the time you get to the end of the story. Now, another thing that this kind of suffers from is a lack of chemistry between our 2 leads. I just really did not buy their performances as 2 people who have fallen in love. It was lacking something. I can't really put my finger on it other than saying it's chemistry, but it just did not hit for me, and not how I imagined these 2 would interact. Now, with that said, I do think that the side characters' voice actors really understood the assignment. You have Fumio and Machi, who I think were excellent and really the backbone of this show. They played their roles as kids very well, while still coming off as like somewhat smart and perceptive of like what was going on and not completely oblivious. They also felt like integral parts of Ichiro and Shiori's relationship. There's also Makoto, who is Shiori's handler, I guess is the best way I could describe her, who 1000% could spit in my mouth anytime she wanted to. I can't believe I said that out loud, but it's true, okay? She's hot. She's fucking hot, all right? And she's an adult. So yeah, she just gives me this like bass player in a band, and definitely probably doesn't like men, and that's what makes it even more appealing to me. Now, with that said, it may be worth watching a little bit of the anime to see if you want to dip your toes into the manga. However, I do find that the anime is so lackluster, it would probably turn you off from the story altogether. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this video, because I actually thought the story was so good. I found it through one of those YouTube recaps, and let me tell you, that recap is like 10 times better than this fucking anime is. If you like romantic comedies with deeper themes that it kind of explores in a very lighthearted way, I would definitely recommend picking up this manga. It's worth every penny I spent on it, and you can probably find it secondhand in pretty good condition. I got all 6 volumes used for like $35. So that's my take on A Galaxy Next Door. The anime really missed the mark for me, and it's a shame, because this is a really good story that I think had a lot of potential to be a classic. I feel like there's just so much spin-off potential too, like a prequel series. I'd love to spend time with Shiori's grandmother and see how the events that led up to her getting her powers played out and how they affected her throughout the course of her life. Or even maybe some stories about the people from the island, maybe some just like one-off stories about how they are dealing with what's going on. Instead, because we got this dull and uninspired anime, anyone who might have been interested in this story will probably never pick up the manga and see how good it actually is. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button and let a brother know. If you're feeling really generous, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And let me know down in the comments if you watched or read A Galaxy Next Door and what you thought about it. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the story? Did you enjoy like the anime? Am I being too harsh on it? I'm always down for some discourse, so just let me know. Also, if you are into fashion, I am ramping up a video for my main channel. I actually have already started recording clips. Once I finish this one, I am going to focus on that. So I said it to say, we may be moving to a 2-week schedule so that I can give myself an opportunity to make content for my second channel. Also, I need a little bit of breathing room to like watch shows and read manga so I can actually be able to talk to you guys about it. Either way, I hope you will stick around so that we can continue to talk about what we like, what we don't like, and everything in between. Until next time, peace.